Hey everybody, this is Wes from 180 here again in the Jacksonville Baptist Association. I just want to record one kind of final video, talk through how I often will run Zoom meetings and just some overall tips. So in this last meeting, I just want to kind of cover a few little tips on how to run a Zoom meeting. So we kind of walked through in the previous video what all these things do down here. If you're not showing this bar down here, if you bring your mouse down there, it will appear. Or if you're on your mobile or iPad, sometimes you have to touch the screen in order to get the options here down here at the bottom. But what I want to kind of talk through real quickly is just how do I typically run a Zoom meeting. If there is just a handful of people in my meeting, I typically will just leave everyone unmuted. Zoom is a platform where really only one person can talk at a time, so it doesn't really allow multiple people to talk over each other. So typically it will mute one. If a lot of people are talking, you're only really going to hear one person talking. So if you have a small meeting, I just leave everyone unmuted. So if it's like five or under five people, I just leave people unmuted. But if it gets more than that, typically I will mute everyone. So maybe at the beginning, I allow just everybody kind of to chat around. But then as we get started with the meeting, I'll let everybody know, hey, I'm going to mute you as we begin the meeting. And so I'll come over here and hit mute, and I'll mute all the participants that are in the meeting. And then if there's a point later on where I want to have more conversation or interaction, I can click unmute all. Now, one thing that you will run into when you have Zoom meetings is someone, if you don't do this, someone will have their mic unmuted, and you'll hear things like dogs barking or just nature sounds and things of that nature. So it's oftentimes good to do that just to keep down on background noise, because sometimes, dog barking, again, if you're only having one kind of main noise or voice at a time, somebody has their dog barking in the background, that's going to be louder than your voice as you're trying to talk. So if you're talking about something important, it's good to come here and mute everyone as you get into the meeting. Now, what I want to do real quickly is I'm actually going to join my meeting from my phone here, just so we have an idea of what it looks like when you have someone else in your meeting. So I'm going to join from my phone. And then you'll see what it looks like when someone is waiting in the waiting room. So just give me 1 second here, and I want to join with my phone. I'm having to enter the password right now. There we go. And as soon as I come to joining the meeting with my phone here, you'll see this. I have the waiting room enabled. So it has this right here. This person is waiting. And I like to have this waiting room just to kind of make sure I know who's joining the meeting. So after I admit them, I usually will say, hey, this person, welcome to the meeting. Thanks for coming. So I can go ahead and hit admit right here. Or if there's someone I don't know, I'm like, I don't even know who that person is. I don't know that they really need to be in my meeting. I can click remove, and that will keep them from joining my meeting. But I'm going to go ahead and hit admit right here, and my phone will join in the meeting. And now that my phone is in the meeting, you can kind of see my other picture here of myself with my phone. I have some abilities over here to go as the host. I can go to more, and I can go over here to make them the host. I can make them a co-host. I can rename them for myself. I can put them back in the waiting room, or I can remove them or even report them if they're somehow doing something that's just inappropriate. Or I can click right here and chat directly with them. So there's definitely some options here as the host I can go through. Now, if I were to leave a meeting and I wanted to make someone a host, like actually I needed to leave and go out of the meeting, I would make someone a host. Otherwise, when you leave the meeting, it closes everyone out of the meeting. So it's important that when you go and maybe you're leaving early for some reason, that you go ahead and make someone the host, the alternative host here as you leave that meeting before you hit this big red end button right there. But one other thing I like to do is I like to run my meetings typically if they're a large meeting with a co-host, so that co-host can watch this participants in the waiting room and allow people in there into the meeting for me as I kind of interact with the other people that are in the meeting. So as I start a meeting, typically there's someone in there that I know, and I will make them the co-host there. And then also sometimes it's good to know, hey, is there someone in there that has some sort of username that I don't really know what they are, or who they are. And I can see them, so I know who they are, and I may go in there and just rename them for my own sake, so I can remember, who they are and that sort of thing. One other thing that you can do is you can go in here and hide non-video participants. So if you are wanting to go in here, maybe there's people in there that don't have their video activated, they're just listening as they're doing other things. You can go in here and click this and hit hide non-video participants. So it'll only show people who have their video on. Now, if I'm doing a meeting, it is extremely helpful when people have their video on, just so you can kind of interact with them and see their face. So I strongly encourage people to turn their video on when they are in a meeting. But maybe for some reason, some people just can't, whether they're joining by their phone, maybe they've called in, or if they're just busy doing something else and they're listening in. But sometimes it's good just to see who's actually on video. So you can click this and hide non-video participants. Now, this is what's called the gallery view. Now, the more people I had, the more boxes would show up in this window right here. So even if I were to have 100 participants, which I've never been in a meeting with 100 participants, but they would have 100 different boxes right here. And sometimes that's not, you don't want to look at 100 boxes, you want to whittle that down. So you can go here and hide anyone who's not showing their video, or even sometimes better than that, if it's a webinar, you can click right here on speaker view, and it will only show the person who is currently talking, and it will change automatically as whoever is talking changes. So as that person changes, this it'll show their video right there, or I can click back to gallery view, and this right here is just enter full screen. If I want to, I have a pretty large screen, so I don't really ever do that. But if you had a smaller computer and you just wanted to enter full screen, so you could see more people on the screen as you're kind of leading maybe a Bible study or a church service, you may want to do that there. So with that, some other little kind of quick little features that I use is some shortcuts. There's lots of different shortcuts for Zoom. You can Google that and find a bunch of them. Even though I don't really use much of them, the one I mainly use is just the space bar. You can use the space bar to quickly toggle your audio. So it'll toggle it on or off. If you push and hold it, it'll allow you to be able to speak, and then you can let off of it, and it will, mute you back again, as well as you can kind of just tap it or untap it to do same sort of thing there. So that's kind of handy to do. Again, if I wanted someone to be able to start their video, I can go in here and say, ask to start video. So if they wanted to be able to say, hey, we're really wanting to have a meeting where a lot of people are participating, could you please start their video? I can't do that for them, but I can ask them if they would, which is important to do sometimes if you're really wanting people to participate and not feel like you're in a room all by yourself, which isn't a good meeting typically. One other thing I wanted to kind of explain down here, since I'm myself in here twice in this meeting, is to kind of explain the chat function right here. Is right now it's set to everyone, but if I wanted to have a private chat with another person who is me, it shows privately right here. Now, if I were to type something in here, it would show in the chat window, but it actually explains that, hey, this is from me to this other to myself, but to another participant. And then I can go back down here and click everyone, and then I can go in here and chat with everyone and send a message that everyone will be able to see. If I can spell, that is, of course. And so now when I click that, it shows this is from me to everyone. So it explains who can see the messages as I chat with them. So as you get going, feel free to use that and have conversations, privately with people that are in the meeting or with everyone together. Now, how do I use chat when I lead meetings? I will ask questions and have people respond. Like, hey, give me an answer to this, or what do you think about this? Because a lot of the times with Zoom, if your meeting is larger, you can't just allow everyone to start talking, because everyone starts kind of talking over each other and only one person can really be heard at the same time. So it doesn't really work out well. So if there's a lot of participants in the meeting and I want to get that information from them, then what I do is I'll ask them to type it into the chat. One good example of this would be kind of prayer requests or something like that. If you're just taking prayer requests, hey, go ahead and have them type it into the chat. That way you've got a record there. And as you're closing out in prayer and you want to be praying for those things, you can go through those prayer requests. Other people that are in the meeting can see those prayer requests in there. So that's one way to be able to do that. Now, there's some other functions that, there's some polling and other things that you can do when you really want to get into having a large meeting where you want to start asking questions and things like that. But for the most part, for most churches and people who are going to use Zoom, this is the basic functionality of Zoom with some advanced settings there. So this was a short video, but I hope you were able to kind of look through all the videos that we shared and get you up and going on Zoom. If you need help, please contact me. I'm glad to help. Again, you can reach me at Wesley, Wesley, at 180.digital, and that's spelled out. So ONEEIGHTY.digital. So Wesley at 180.digital. I'd be glad to help you answer any further questions that you have about using Zoom with your church. Thanks a lot.